Hello, happy Friday. I'm doing this recap for the mystery grape that we did yesterday, which was Viognier from Condrieu. Much early because with my trip, if I didn't do it now, it's going to be like a week and a half till I can do it. So I wanted to do this while the clues were still relatively fresh in folks' mind. Because this was definitely a challenging one. Got a lot of people that, a lot of common laterals, Gewürztraminer, Chenin got that, Torrontés, Albarino even. So a lot of really good guesses. And I think it is because when a lot of us think of Viognier, and there's so many delicious examples out there, Condrieu is kind of expensive, and there's a lot of great bang for the buck coming out of California, Washington State, where I was from, makes lots of delicious Viogniers. There's Chile, the Languedoc, South Africa, Australia. I mean, Viognier is in quite a few areas. It's kind of crazy that this grape was almost like extinct, in the mid-20th century until in Condrieu it got revised. And so this is really an area that you need to hunt out the bottles and taste these bottles. Particularly, you want to taste examples that have, some oak influence. It doesn't have to be completely new oak like Guigal. Guigal is a very good bottle, but they love their oak. But the ones that have, you want to look for the ones with malolactic fermentation. And it sounds so counterintuitive that malo would be like a part of Condrieu, and especially Viognier when we get into the properties of the grape. But you want to get this. You want to experience the texture of this wine. This wine is very, very driven by its texture. But let's review a couple of the clues here, starting with the aromas and flavor clues. And we'll kind of get into the whys. When you're picking these up in the glass, you always want to think about the why behind it, on it, to connect that to your tasting note. So the clues, clue 1, we had peaches. We had both peaches itself. And then also, I liked the photo because it highlighted the peach pit. Because Viognier is a grape that does have phenolics on it. It's a grape that is an aromatic grape, so the terpenes that kind of influence a lot of those aromas, those are in the skin. And so in order to extract those, and we're thinking of the same thing with like Gewürztraminer, Muscat varieties, skin contact. And when you do skin contact, even with a white wine, you can get tannins coming out of them. So you can always think with some of these varieties that have terpenes, they could have a little bit of phenolics. And Viognier is one in particular that has that note to it. And there was also a nice vanilla bean in that first clue. So, you had that three for one. I always like when I get those. Clue number 2, Mandarin Orange. So a ripe citrus. Clue 3, a white melon. So kind of was a little vague in the tropicals because in Condrieu, which is more of a moderate continental climate, it's not super tropical. Like you think of like some of the California Viogniers, some of the Australian Viogniers that can get really, really tropical on it. But there's some. That's kind of the trademark of Viognier. Ripe citrus, stone fruit, peaches, and then also we got another one coming up, and then little tropical. Clue 4, honeysuckle, another trademark. We're talking about those terpenes, the floral notes to it. It might not be as in your face, smacking upside the head with a bouquet floral as it can be in some of those New World examples that are all stainless steel, but there usually is some floral notes in Condrieu and in any Viognier. Clue number 5, we bring in the other big stone fruit. We talked about peaches. Now we got apricots. And this one, though, I chose was apricots with some apricot yogurt. And I'm going to come back to that yogurt part in a bit. This one also had another white flower, white blossom note to it. So it was kind of hitting you guys a little bit several times. Like, think about some of the aromatic varieties there. And then clue 6 was orange blossom. So another hit upside the head with some floral notes to it. So those were the kind of the aroma and floral clues to it. Then getting into the structure clues, medium lemon to medium gold. So it's not going to be your pale lemon, really light color. There's usually some color with the Viognier. And you think about where that color is coming from. If it does have oak influence, oak is an oxidizer. Oak deepens the color. Skin contact, you can also extract colors from the skins, even of white grapes. That's why the whole concept of orange wines exists. You can extract some color. Viognier is not going quite the orange wine route. Some producers are doing that, but not in our classic blind tasting style. But there is usually some color. So you're thinking more that medium lemon to even gold, especially if you have an aged example. Medium plus to pronounce. So there's usually a lot going on in the glass there. Dry. Low to medium minus acidity. So So this is a trademark of Viognier. Viognier is a mid-ripening grape, but it's a grape that burns acid like a mother on it. I mean, the picking times on trying to nail Viognier is a little tough because if you miss it, it just goes with that. So you have to be really careful with Viognier, but it's always going to be on that lower end of acidity. So after I just told you before about, looking for a Condrieu that has malolactic fermentation, I'm sure a lot of you are just kind of like, what? It's already a low acid grape. Why are we wanting to lower the acid some more? And I want you to think about, though, malo in a little bit of a different way. With it, this is kind of, especially when you're getting to the diploma level, you need to do a little bit higher level thinking. Lactic acid, converting the malic acid to lactic acid is still an acid. It's not as harsh or as sharp as malic. So in the overall TA, your total acidity, yes, it's going down, but there is still some acidity there. And it's the way that lactic acid, that kind of acid we associate with dairy, expresses itself. That's what you're picking up in the glass in a Condrieu with the malolactic. So it's not the acid of green apples, it's the lactic dairy acid, like the acid of yogurt. And so one of the best things you can do as a blind tasting wine student is go get some apricot yogurt, get some peach yogurt. Ideally, don't get ones that are super sweet. Like, I really like the yogurts that I've been finding here in the UK and the ones I found in France because they're not as sweet as the US ones. But get some apricot or peach yogurt. Taste it, enjoy it, have a great lunch. Later on, go to your Condrieu and kind of taste it and smell. And you're going to get a little bit of that malolactic-y notes with the fruit, like those yogurts on it. So again, I always like to incorporate food elements when I do these things. So yogurt is my prop for today. But definitely think about that. The other thing you want to think about with malolactic, it kind of adds that roundness to it. And I talked earlier about the phenolics that Viognier can have, especially if a producer is doing some skin contact to extract those terpenes. You got phenolics. Phenolics can be a little bitter. So malolactic gives you a nice roundness to go with it. So those are things to think about. Yes, malolactic with a lower acid grape seems really weird. I mean, heck, with the aromatic variety, this is also one that they put into oak, which is also really weird. They just do weird shit in Condrieu with Viognier. It doesn't make sense that it exists, but yet it is one of the world's great wines. But it is a wine that you gotta try, and you do have to kind of piece together little things about it, about why this wine is the way it is. So that was my sidebar about acid and with the malo. Continuing with the structure notes, medium plus to full body. So with any very textural driven wines, you're going to have that weight that you're going to feel in the palate. And then medium to high alcohol. It can easily go over 14%, especially with climate change there. Also adding to that weight and texture. So you're thinking about all these things you're pulling together. You have some of the aromatics. You've got the pronounced, medium plus to pronounced intensity. You've got that lower acid. And so you got to focus on those acid calls there because you're getting something with the lactic acid there, but it's definitely going to be on that lower side. It's not going to be like a Chenin Blanc, super high racy acidity. It's not going to be like a Riesling. Gewürztraminer, though, is going to be a little bit of a pain in the butt with blind tasting because Gewürz also is a lower acid and it's also aromatic. Gewürz rarely, though, sees mallow and rarely sees oak. I would be shocked if you ever got that in a blind tasting exam on it because it's just not the style. Oh, excuse me, with oak, new oak. Might be a neutral oak barrel like up there in Alsace. Because with Gewürz, it is all about that heady, smack you upside the head aromatics, and a producer doesn't want to mask that at all. So that's usually going to be your big thing with kind of going between Viognier and Gewürz. Gewürz is usually going to smack you a little bit more with those heady aromatics. And you can kind of piece together some of the particular ones like the lychee, rosewater, that are a little different than our ripe citrus, stone fruit, tropical, and then some of those orange blossoms, citrus blossoms, honeysuckles, those kind of notes with that. So that is it. That is our recap for Viognier from Condrieu. And so I will see you in about a week and a half with the new crop of mystery grapes. So thank you. Take care.